sebab aku tak tekan go live on the YouTube whatever. Monitor off. Alright. Hi guys, welcome to podcast 003. Before we start, I know that some of you are here. Can I just get like a quick response from you guys about the audio, and tell me if the audio from me is okay and the audio from Arma is okay. So I'm just gonna talk. I don't know if you guys hear it, but you probably do lah. But just tell me if my audio is fine right now. You can say audio is fine, and then Arma, can you wanna?
Test. Hello everyone. Can you guys hear me?
I will wait first. Okay, I don't know if anyone's here.
That means he doesn't have power over desktop. This guy does.
Alright, okay, so they said the audio sounds good. Alright, so hi everybody, this is Farhan Fauzi, your host for tonight, and for our third podcast of Safehouse to You, we have a very special guest, which is Arma Badrulsham. You might know him from a lot of things actually, because I'm sure you guys know him from different things and not just one. But first and foremost, he's from Neo KL, also from Transit Mart, the concept store in SS15. He was the one who started the now closed down Stakesshop, and lastly, he works as a full-time designer for Against Lab. For me personally, I knew him first from Stakesshop, and that was like a while ago. So all of these other things, Neo KL, Transit Mark, and him working for Against Lab was after that. So it's crazy to see that all these things were since only after like 4 or 5 years ago, I think. Yeah. Hi Emma.
Yeah. Hi. What's up, man?
Yeah, so me and Arma, we had a little chat earlier about wanting to keep this discussion podcast like a bit more casual lah, and not so formal or
Former.
like,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
so interview like.
Yeah, because I think it speaks to our relationship, so it has never been formal. The way we were introduced to each other, it was not formal. So I think it's gonna look awkward if we start doing formal
Yeah.
shit together. Yeah.
I remember masa kita orang buat the oh my god, what was it? The Against Lab dekat the what was it? Discussion panel.
Oh yeah.
In Rex KL. And that was like me in a setting with Arma as well as Zul Amran together,
Yeah.
and it was a discussion panel. Obviously, it had to be like some kind of formal, but I think for me and Arma, it was a bit awkward. Like our first interaction.
It was an interesting experience. For me, it was surreal.
That experience was surreal.
Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to thank you guys for inviting me on. I was supposed to be on here with Sheldon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then things switched up.
Yeah. I mean, Sheldon kick-started the podcast with Safehouse to You, but the second I heard that the next podcast was with you, then I was like, okay, I've never, so I was like, Sheldon, sorry, like I really wanted to, I've never really had the chance to like talk to you, I mean in a proper setting lah, and like delve more into like things that I was curious about or wanted to know more about you, and I think this would be like a good starter for that to happen.
Cool.
Yeah. So, do you want to say a little bit of yourself? Like, I don't know, like straight up, like normal things, how old you are, and maybe.
I think you've introduced me fairly good tadi.
Yeah.
Everything's out there already. So
All right.
yeah,
Um,
I think we can just dive in, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just noticed that since, like I said before, like we had the first encounter with Stakesshop. Since then, that was like I really can't remember what year it was. 2015.
15.
2015. So that was
Yeah.
5 years ago. Since then, you've done like a lot of different things, and you jumped from here and there, and like, you kick-started all these like established. I say brands are like I wouldn't like it's company isn't the word that I would use. I say brands because they're very
Mhm.
much noticeable and you would know right away what they are. Um, and like even I can't fit all of your brands inside the YouTube title. You
I
know?
think everything's there.
Yeah, yeah. Tak ada lah. I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to write lead designer against lah, but it wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
But
No
like
worries.
it's a hefty lineup lah of what you've done so far.
Yeah.
What
I remember the first time we met was the way we met was you guys DMing. I think the that time it was Bucket Pimp punya Instagram account. Yeah. So you used Bucket Pimp and then
Yeah.
you were talking about doing something together, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, I think you boys were you and Arif was the first ever kira young bloods yang I really collaborated or at least do anything with. Before that, I had the idea. I've always had the idea. Oh, I want to do things with local musicians, ke, something like that. But but for me, going out and because I didn't have the connections back then, we were fresh. Stakeshop was only about we started Stakeshop 8 years ago. So when you contacted us, it was our third year.
Yeah.
Yeah, when things started.
But you had a hiatus and like it wasn't ongoing for 3 years. It was like
It was masa tu, yes, but because we were so new, first and second year usually you don't create any buzz at all lah. Especially during that time when everything was new, having a brand on Instagram was new.
Yeah.
It was everything was really new. So for you to like suddenly be known in 1 years or 2 years time was kind of impossible lah.
Understood.
Yeah, so we had to build up. That's why by the third year, a lot of things happened for us. It was just me and Shaza back then, my girl. Lepas tu and our photographer Jay. So by the third year, you guys contacted us. We got into pattern store, which was a big deal for us. Then back then, we really.
Especially in Talawi back then.
Yeah, we looked up to that store, man.
Yeah.
So, so that's when I remember you and Arif. Then we, do you remember where we met? I even remember where we met.
It was Grafa.
No. It was upstairs.
Upstairs
cafe. Yeah, we went up there for the first meet, and then you guys explained to us what you guys wanted to do. The Grafa meet was actually the time when I presented you guys the music video for Till 44.
Oh yeah, before then we were just talking on Instagram.
Yes.
We haven't had officially had met then. But but you said like we like me and Arif were like the first like younger people that you met. Or like affiliated with Stakeshop, but we actually found you through Let Go.
Okay.
I think no, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
found,
Okay.
I
In
found
terms
your
of musicians, because that time Khadija wasn't into. She was not Let Go yet. So she was Let Go when we started the Lotus Club.
Yeah.
She grew into that. She blossomed into Let Go after that.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, so not like the youngins from the music scene, but like I think she's younger than me. I'm not really sure about her age, but so
Yeah.
we were following on Instagram, and then I just stumbled upon your Stakesshop Instagram account, and I
Mm-mm.
was just like, what though? Like people like time two, I was like Tempatan Fest and things like very copy paste kind of styles, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
this whole like new look was like very inspiring to us, and especially with hooks like me, Arif, the affiliate, what we were affiliated with back then, we were always trying to do like newer things. And
Mm-mm.
when we saw Steak Shop, we were, I don't know, we were like completely intrigued, and then I think a natural kind of like relationship had to
Mm.
blossom from there lah.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So after that, let me talk a bit like about like what happened after that lah. Like, I mean, we now know that like Stay Shop is closed down, but like before we get into more the details, like, um, did you know that you were going to do so many things and juggle so many things at once, or because back then you only had Steak Shop, and now you have Neo KL and you have Transit, and then you're also designing. Yeah. Did you know that you were going to do all of those things?
Of course not. I mean, naturally, when you start things off when you're younger, you feel like you just want to do one thing, right? You don't want to design for anyone else,
Yeah.
and you just want to do your own thing. So, whatever I'm doing right now was just a natural progression from the need to honestly to just survive, and also the need to create. So that's two kira pushing factor. Yeah. So if we go back, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, it wasn't planned at all. All this was based on who I met along the way, um, who uh, who influenced me along the way.
Mm.
So yeah, a lot of that.
Did you know that you were capable of doing all those things? I mean, doing the things that you're doing now. Back
Uh,
then, when we first met, like 5 years ago.
of course not. I mean, if if I were to look back, I don't think I would ever come to a conclusion that I would be doing like three things
Yeah.
at once, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like um, there's a lot of people who do these sort of things,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of crazier to do like three things. But I know a lot of people who does more.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to like, I mean, put yourself on a status if you like compare with like the amount of people that exist doing more and more things, and
yeah.
but um but like technically, like the technical things that you have to be able to know, and the things that you're able to, um just like the ability to, because you're not just designing, you're like a businessman also. You are doing business development, you're talking to people, making things happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, having to like juggle all these different things, and basically what I wrote here in the notes is like jack of all trades, like you can
Mm.
design, you can create things from scratch, and you can also like do all the formal things of business, like the bureaucratic things or whatnot,
Yeah.
to set up a business.
Yeah. I mean, jack of all trades. Kan. When you hear that phrase, you kind of there's a positive aspect of it that you usually hear about, where this guy is uh, technically vast in a lot of things. Uh, but there's also a negative connotation to the jack of all trades, meaning the second this the latter phrase, which is jack of all trades, master of none, right? So yeah, so I
I don't think so though. Like I don't think
no
that
no no
applies to you.
no. The thing is, I actually I think it applies to me both ways.
Mm.
I see the good points in understanding a lot of skills,
Mm-hmm.
which was never um, which was never in the plan for me to know. it was all based on survival or the lack of resources that I had that pushed me to fuck it. So I don't know anything about music. So
You have to learn.
yes, like anything that I know now about music, my kira technical school was dealing with you boys folks the first time doing sort of Lotus Club, and then seeing that my first monitor speakers is seeing Faris hooking it up at the spot, right?
Yeah.
So it's all based on what I've absorbed during all these times, and
Yeah.
because I can't rely on you boys all the time as itu. So then, okay, shit, I have to start learning sikit lah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it never really went into. You can master these things if you do a lot of skills, but the problem is time. You can only spend so much time on a
Correct.
certain skill,
Yeah.
and then so naturally if you have, yeah, compared to someone who has 3 skills, and you are tending to 10 skills, you master it a lot slower than
If you
the
focus
guy
on
with
one
three
thing.
skills
Yeah.
yeah yeah
Understood.
so there's a negative and positive part of the jack of all trades, but it's all based on survival. It's like I had to do it because it's either I didn't have money to pay anyone, or I was a bit of a control freak. Like most of it started with me being a control freak of what I wanted the end product to be. Then, so if someone who, I mean, dulu when I was younger, I was a bit more rash. So it's like it's either you follow or you don't follow my direction. That sort of thing. Instead of being a bit more,
Lenient
yeah,
with the outcome.
compromising.
Mm.
Right. So because you have to learn to work with people, and
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So that kind of made me into having all these skills, because I had to do a lot of things myself before I ever had a team. Right. It's just me and Shaza back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's mostly because I needed to, not because I wanted all these skills.
I mean, but you do appreciate the fact that
Yes,
you know
yes, yeah,
you know that you know a lot of these things, because obviously, I mean, you could say that you weren't interested 5 years ago about like
yeah,
the technical aspects of music, but now at the end of the day, you might have developed like a new hobby at least, or
yeah.
something like that.
I mean, if me being introspective or retrospective, looking at the past, can um, uh, I'm not necessarily a super skilled designer, like someone who's super creative in 3D, or someone who's
Yeah.
super good in new media, or all this crazy shit these younger kids are doing now. But what I know about myself after like 8 years of doing creative work is that I'm more of a the reason why I have all these traits, right, is because I'm more of a guy who wants to package everything in one thing, right? From the music to the artwork to the product to
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
like audio visual, right?
Yeah.
Everything, all the senses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy who is like looks at the end of the product. Okay, as a whole, how is it packaged? So in order for me uh, to be that way, I needed to have all these traits lah,
Faham.
so that I can like build it up first. If I can do it myself, I can. But if not, I can at least come up with it roughly, and then search for people to improve on the end product.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah,
uh. I mean, like you said, the main motivator of all these things would, I mean, as you said, like survival. But is it the circumstances that you are actually in to um I mean, cause that as a factor to why you did all these skills, like had to learn all these skills, or was it because these skills that you have don't necessarily return back like like even like one of those skills don't return back like economic benefit that you would.
I mean,
You know.
it all comes into play. It's like, but the thing with skills, right? It's like, mm, macam mana nak cakap? You have to move on to new skills now, especially nowadays. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's more of like trial and error sort of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I remember Zul was explaining this during our talk against too.
Yeah.
He was doing music, and then he figured out like, oh man, this is not my thing. So I moved on. He moved on. Then he was doing something else, and then he thought, okay, this was not his thing. So I think it's natural for someone who's creatively inclined. And when I mean creative inclined, it is like you find yourself wanting to create all the time though. It's like when you're done with something, then suddenly you have something else you want to make. So with those kind of strong inclinations of creation, it's quite common for you to pick up new skills as you go along. Meaning, if these skills doesn't work, you gotta need. But of course, economic reasons too, because since we're doing this as a business and we want to be successful as a business, I am more quick to pick up pick up a new skill now compared to when I was doing Stakes. So Stakes was I had a bit more purity in the way I wanted to make things, but that makes things too slow, basically. And business is not a very slow paced thing. Yeah. I hope I answered it.
No.
correctly,
I mean, I just the thing that I was more curious about was just like necessarily is it like your skills that make the economic circumstances difficult, or was it the economic circumstances that was difficult made you develop those skills? You know, and I guess like it might also be just like both kind of situation. If you started off like, okay, I need to do something, and then this is what I like, so this is what I do, but the thing that you like also doesn't really return economic benefits that much, especially, I mean, we all know how like Malaysia is like lah, but I understand lah, like it could be like both ways also, right? And it's just like a cycle.
It's definitely a case to case thing lah, but you'll definitely come across times where you need to build skill because you need to create that economic opportunity, or it comes time where you don't like economic, that skill is sort of blocking your economic opportunity. So
okay, so we'll move on to like the next note, because that was just one of it. I just want to talk. I mean, okay, so out of all those skills, it's only I feel like you really have a strong affinity towards like one thing lah. Instead of like, we know that you dabbled into music. We know that you dabbled into like AR designing with Tobu also, and a lot of like these new things.
AR. I'm just creating content. The main coding and stuff, I've got to put my heads on to Tobu. Yeah.
Shout out Tobu, he's in the chat, I think.
Yeah.
Or Youth Portal is. But yeah, so all these like new skills that you develop, but like your main affinity, like like your main thing that I can see is definitely surrounded with like clothing. And I mean, NeoCal is a clothing brand. Transit is a concept store that provides clothing. You are designing for Against Lab, which is a clothing brand, and also Stakesshop. So there's like a lot of different aspects to like clothing, but also you are very much into the design aspect of clothing, and not just like the sales or like the production or whatever, but like I can see that you're closely related to the design aspect. And do you want to talk a bit more about how how that like why that actually is, and maybe you've had like some sort of history or something that made you fall in love with design in clothes.
Mm. Yeah, sure. I mean, it all started in school. I mean, I'm from a regular family, meaning, I mean, it's special to me, my family, but in terms of like,
Faham,
if
faham.
people would have looked into my family, it's just a regular, my dad was just a regular middle incomer, very regular middle income family, family of five. So, like, there's no one that does clothing. But my dad is, uh, even though he was in the airline business, he was definitely creatively inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was probably wasn't like uh, education wise, he wasn't a professional creative person,
Mm-hmm.
but he definitely had the inclination to
Be
push me
creative.
to paint or whatever, right? So to hone those skills lah. So I guess uh, if I look back into my younger days, especially before even going to school, I wanted to be an inventor, right? Because there was no
Like
back
technology.
then. I know, like when I was young, there was no term of designer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I was a kid, the only closest thing was that I could think of that kind of is like a scientist or an inventor, right? So a person who makes things. So I was from a young age, I knew sort of that I felt that I wanted to make things, right? So that's just something that I honed throughout going to school and everything. But clothing came into um, I would say like naturally I was the youngest of a lot of my cousins, and then they were into clothing, and somehow I've like kind of mimicked them and started buying things that they liked, and they said this was cool, that was cool. Then I started liking clothes macam tu lah. I mean like but basic like t-shirts and how
Like
graphic
streetwear.
back then there was no streetwear yet, so it started off like very simple like top man shit or whatever, right?
Ni back then bila.
Ni masa budak kecil lagi.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean I'm older than you
Yeah.
guys, so it's like
But
this was
streetwear has been
before.
around for a while, no?
Yes, but the thing is, internet wasn't as strong back then.
Oh,
So
okay.
the only thing you knew about clothing was Top Man or whatever in the malls, kan?
Mm.
Wild Channel, like
Oh,
this is
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
really, really old
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
lah, kan?
Uh-uh.
Wild Channel, whatever, Rafi ID lah, whatever the fuck, kan?
Uh-uh.
So
Wrong.
then, wrong, yes. So okay, so then we move. The streetwear part came in high school. This basically read a lot of like comics, and then um, there's a section in this comic called Gempak, and then dekat tengah tu there's this like mini brochure that they provided, and then they weren't talking about streetwear per se, but they was talking about macam cool clothing yang kind of look like comic-ish things, right? So the closest is like kind of a ninja thing. So this ninja hoodie is from Maharishi, right? So that was my first
Accountant.
introduction. Yeah, introduction to clothing, which is Maharishi dengan Babe, which is I'm glad it was those two because these two brands
No, they're good brands, luckily.
yeah. So Maharishi is sampai hari ni I respect a lot lah. I mean whatever the owner Hardy Blackman, yeah, he's done Maharishi to a point yang macam kind of crazy yeah. But that was the first
Yeah.
and then I was stuck I started drawing and shit in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
kind of like normal lah.
I remember when you said Gempak Stars, and I used to read a lot of those magazines juga, and I can't remember which comic, but like macam every once in a while they would incorporate like a lot of like these streetwear styles macam under 18 for example. It's very
Yeah, yeah.
deeply rooted in Japanese streetwear, so then you could like
Yes.
have a lot of interaction with that. And then what is the one with Loki? I forgot the red
Uh,
guy with Loki. I forgot the name lah, but
yeah.
yeah, I had
And they
encountered.
were influenced a lot by also, which is the same inspiration as streetwear, which is Japanese toys, right?
Yeah,
Time itu ada Michael Lau, Gardner Gala,
yeah.
big name in streetwear slash. What's crazy about Michael Lau is um, he sort of put his mark in streetwear without even being in streetwear. He was a toy designer, right?
Yeah.
But the culture he touched was hip hop. So that's already major part of where streetwear is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's
Like the guy, like I can't remember the comic. Genki, yes, one of them. Genki, yeah. So
yeah.
I follow still the artist on
Mm.
Instagram, Michael Chia, and then he does all like little drawings and stuff. Like I mean, it's reminiscent of that time, but what's
Mm.
mostly affects me or like makes me reminisce a bit was he still makes toys out. Like
Yeah.
he still makes those low-key toys, and recently he made like a Tun Dr. Mahathir punya little
Yeah.
toy.
Oh, dia.
Yeah,
Okay. No wonder
it was
it's so
Michael Chia.
similar. Yeah.
And yeah, and I can see like how he could have like influenced the streetwear culture in Malaysia as well. That's like how like I don't know, comic artists or like toy makers in Japan had affected the Japanese streetwear.
Yep.
So like you started off with the comics, and then you found Maharishi, and then I mean Babe is obviously like a staple to a lot of
Yeah.
older heads with
Yeah.
streetwear. But how did that develop into like the beginning of your career? Like did you first start off like right after school or whatever designing for clothes, or do you want to talk a bit more?
I tried to, but I didn't have the resources yet. So where I live, macam susah sikit nak keluar. I mean, buses ada, but it wasn't as reliable as it is now.
Yeah.
So, and then like my family, my dad was supportive. I mean, we went to like a printer shop, but nothing really happened because he just showed me lah macam tu.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to do my own thing. It's just that I think I went straight. After that, it was more just me like berangan me having an imagination of a brand. But I only started everything. Like the first ever thing was no. Okay, officially it was Stakesshop, meaning having a proper printer and everything. But my background started right after high school. I started learning silk screen, tapi not like official silk screen too. It's like more the screens. Instead of like exposing it to a light source, I made the screens from I bought like those mesh silk screens from an art shop in KL Central. And then the designs were cut out from A4 paper. So that's my
Like collaging.
Not it's like you know how silk screens dia ada holes and akan register the design, right? So I'll do a design and then cut out the parts where I want the ink to go through. So basically it's just the same,
but you DIY the hell out of it
Yes. Masa tu the people who were popular, I mean, I can't lie, I was also inspired a lot by the movement of rantai art masa tu. Earlier stages, they were very pure with their mission and everything. So I was very inspired by this group called Kurasa Raksasa. So and knowing that name, it was very rantai art punya days punya name lah, like
Yeah.
very indie punya sort of mentality kan. So
Yeah.
I was into that macam, but because of them, I started researching into having to do it myself lah. So
Yeah.
but diorang, instead of doing masa tu, the video that I saw, they silk screen. They did not use silk screen. Instead of it was hand painted, but still using paper templates. So I took the paper templates and then put it on a silk screen. But I'm sure they did a lot of silk screen too. It's just that video they showed was hand painted instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, so started learning sendiri, doing silk screening alone.
So back then you
Uh,
weren't like on Photoshop or Illustrator or anything.
Photoshop.
Oh, okay. You're still
Yeah.
designing on the computer lah.
Yes, Photoshop, hand drawn, doing silk screen or iron-on patches, or yeah, those sort of things. And then I still remember right after high school, um, I was I was very much inspired by Japanese stores, though, like dari dulu, like small, minimal, small, not minimal, like small dimension stores from Japan. So I think I found a few videos that shows all these clothing stores that was really small in Japan. So I was inspired by that, and I even like my room didn't look like a room. So I didn't have like a bed or whatever. Instead, I decided to like put out the bed, and drill like shelvings to create a store instead, in my own room dekat the house.
So you were
And I
designing your room like a store.
yeah. So I called in friends in the weekend, and then they came to, what the fuck is this?
So
And then they were shopping in my room. That was how, I guess now retrospectively I look back, I was always interested in like the retail aspect of product, going back to the whole package kan.
Yeah.
So the product is not just audio visual of the product itself, but it's also the surroundings of where the products is being placed,
yeah.
right? So yeah.
I wrote it down on my phone when you were talking like 10 minutes ago, but I guess like it's a good time to bring it up. Also, I think you're very much infatuated by like not just the product itself, but like the experience of, you know, being part of this whole shopping experience. You know, like it's definitely commerce is definitely surrounding like, you know, buying things, but
Yeah.
like the experience of buying things is you try and make it like more than just, okay, here's a store, you go, you buy, you chow. It's more like
Yeah.
you go,
Yeah.
you experience a lot of different things, you like intrigued by like a toy or like I don't know, some of like these intricate things that you
Yeah,
make it in.
yeah.
And especially like also music, or I know because I can see that you decorated T-Mart, and it's not like like a it's a good way to describe it, like a concept store. It's not like a normal clothing store that you just walk in like Top Man or whatever, and it's just clothes and clothes and clothes. It's more of just like a nice
Yeah.
little experience to go there and then lepak also outside.
Yep. I mean, I'm interested in all that, the whole package, basically.
Yeah.
So that's where all my trades come into play. Yeah. But also, it's like, yes, it is commerce, but I guess the other part of me was also interested in community. Back then, it was subcultures, basically. So if you know,
This is okay. When you say back then, you have to like contextualize a bit lah, because your back then is not the same as my back then.
okay, so how do I say this? Like,
Just
okay,
like how many years ago lah?
Kalau nak cakap ni, maybe me in high school, I can't even remember, man. I think I'm that old lah. So
12 years ago, I say.
yeah, most probably, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so when when I was exposed to Nigo Babe kan, you start digging into more about what he was lah. So I'm more interested in not the brands per se, the products per se, but I'm interested in the stories of the creators, like the founders. So I've always been interested in that. Like sampai sekarang, even to back then, knowing about Babe and how he started and what did he do to start, and then to Maharishi, to even now Sakai. I'm more interested about the stories of the owners than the brand itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, kalau go back to when the first time exposed to Nigo, you started looking at him expanding his stores to. That was the time when he was crazy. Ada TV station sendiri. He had the hair salon. He had everything. Which now I think it's a bad move because I think he went
Business-wise.
bankrupt. Bankrupt because of that.
Yeah.
But it was crazy to see. All his stores was very exclusive.
Yeah.
Whatever. Again, it had character, not like. Salah. Nowadays, when they say exclusive, it's kind of like watered down because everybody is kind of doing exclusive, and then what is really exclusive? But
Yeah.
back then, when they say it was exclusive, it was really really exclusive lah.
Yeah.
So digging into that more, I was more into Nigo's first ever store with Jun Takahashi, which is Nowhere. So
Jun
Nowhere
Takahashi
was
is undercover, right?
yes.
Right.
So there's three partners. So there's Nigo. There's
Skate thing, something like that.
no. Skate thing was with. Yes, he was with Nigo, that's lah. But the three partners was Nigo, Tetsu Nishiyama, and Jun Takahashi. So Babe, W Tabs punya owner sekarang, and undercover designer now.
Yeah.
So three of them created one store called Nowhere, and then in there they just sold their own brands. So I was more interested in that idea of a community more than their brands. So how they created like back then it was kind of like a hidden side of Harajuku.
Yeah.
So that's why they called it Alamak. I forgot what it was called, but it was something Harajuku. So it was at the back alley of Harajuku. So it wasn't as popular.
To access.
Yes. So, but throughout the years, people knew about that place, then they became more popular.
So
Yeah.
I just googled it and I got a picture of Nowhere store on the stream right now. It looks like it's a store inside like a separate store inside like a mall or like
but that photo is actually the newer Nowhere store. That's actually in Dover Street, but that's a replica of their store. Right, so they remade the store in Dover Street. So it's kind of hard to find the
can't
original.
even find a picture then.
Yes, yeah. I tried. It's kind of hard. You kind of like have to dig a bit more, but there is one photo I think was the original photo, but two pun I can't really confirm.
I got a picture now. Let me put it up. I guess it's like a screen scan of an old magazine. It says Bounty Hunter
Killer.
Open
Yeah,
5-5.
Bounty Hunter.
And I'll show you guys. So this is who Arma was talking about, for who of those that aren't familiar, I guess. So the one on the left is Nigo, the one on the right most is Jun Takahashi, and the one in the center I'm not so sure. Do you see the picture now? No.
It's a bit delayed. Maybe I'll see. Yang tengah tu is Hiroshi Fujiwara. So he wasn't a partner, but he was responsible a lot for Nigo's career. Hiroshi Fujiwara is now Fragment Design.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is he the one that worked with Dior?
Yes, I think so.
The one with the robot?
No. Are you talking about the big robot?
Yeah, the big robot.
No. That is another artist. So Hiroshi Fujiwara is a like OG influencer lah. Back before Instagram was around or social media, he was doing a lot of streetwear columns or magazines, I think. And Nego was under his wing lah. They say, and this tak silap is part of that magazine. So it's pretty much the same as how things are now, except it was on paper, right? On printed paper. So they promoted their friends, they promoted their community,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, for those of you guys who want to know more about what Arma's talking about, the whole experience and then the streetwear, I mean, this is basically his starting lah. This like the birth of Arma's like streetwear life, or like the clothing design career. Started off with like magazines like this, and these three misters are, I guess, like mostly Japanese streetwear again, not anything American.
Yes.
Like fucked, you were never into like fucked.
Fuck yes. Supreme yes. I still like Supreme's history. So you still have to go into, because it's a lot connected. So the Japanese streetwear scene was a lot connected to the American streetwear scene. So Nego was a lot inspired by the American scene. He went to America, and then what I think, I might be butchering this story, but what I know of Nego and Hiroshi was they went a lot to America to bring back like cool Americana pieces or like sneakers back then. Again, so
I mean, because it's cool to see how much Americana is like
Yes.
done in Japan more than
Yes.
it is in actual America.
Yeah. So that's how it started for them. They were bringing back sneakers and products from America, and they created relationships. So I think so. I think Nego was inspired by X large a bit, but I'm not so sure. Yeah, but if you want to go into American streetwear, I'm still inspired by the movement itself too. I mean, it started off with from Pervert to Stussy, to then coming down to Supreme. I mean, that history is very interesting to me. So that's why I come back to the idea of, I like the stories of the brand more than the brand.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not invested a lot in Supreme's designs. But James punya story, when he started from Union and then leaving Union and making the Supreme store, because he thought a lot of skate brand back then were, I mean, the skaters started young at his age, when they were kids, and then by the time he was leaving Union, he started realizing all the younger skaters have grown into like older teens, older younger adults or middle adults, and so but the skate brands back then was too like
Young.
graphics, like too much graphics. They were concentrated on like younger demographics. So that's why he started Supreme, where the Oxford shirt and whatever a bit more older ni lah.
So I mean the characters themselves that develop all these brands are like definitely what makes the brand special in a sense. I don't think a lot of these brands really blew up because of their designs, because for me personally, I think like the essence of streetwear is so like, because it's pop, like pop culture is very much like, you can see here, you can also see there. It's about playing with things, like being witty and whatnot, but like a lot of like kids who are involved or like invested in these brands are not necessarily wearing the brands itself, like they're not wearing the design because of the design. They're wearing because they have a sense of like affinity lah, like some kind of relationship that they feel closeness towards the stories of the brands, and I guess that kind of like affected you the same way.
Yes.
Okay, so okay lah. So this is harsh of me to ask, but do you see yourself as like having that
Uh-huh.
somewhat similar story or character as these other big brands that you look up to? Don't be like humble and
Why
shit lah.
why would that be harsh?
Oh, I don't know. I
No.
mean, tak ada lah.
So wait,
It
sorry.
could be harsh.
Macam you were skipping a bit the audio.
Oh.
What were you asking?
I was saying that do you see yourself as having that like like interesting enough like story or of your starting of your brand the same way that you see all these other bigger brands that you look up to? Could your story also influence all these kids that you see? I mean, I can see there's like F Rider and Gasing Grace also, and I think they're also seeing the kind of same kind of sentiment that you are saying with Stussy and all these other brands.
Yeah. I mean, uh, I do hope it becomes something like a pushing factor, or at least it makes someone wants to do something. I mean, but that was never the objective. The objective was just to, I mean, it's kind of a selfish objective, but I'm always thinking of creating things. So, but if by me creating things starts a new story for someone else, then I guess that's good. Then but it's never on my mind to I should start creating this shit so that I can inspire the younger.
Yeah.
No, tak ada sampai macam tu. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so this would be a nice little segue to say also when when Stakesshop and Hoax first time collaborated, for me personally, I think that was macam, I don't know what the word is, but like two like-minded brains or something, and then it comes together, and I'm just like, wow, this is like really nice for Hoax to work with Stakes because we are so alike in very odd different ways. And I think from then we kind of like developed our like Hoax vision story similar to how Stakeshop also developed. It's very much the same kind of principles and ethics, and that would be what we later on macam more owned up to lah than before when we first started, was the attitude and the DIY-ness, you know, of like being able to do things ourselves. And obviously like it's a circumstance of the times where we have the internet and big labels, record labels are no longer as relevant as they were in the 90s, for example. But we also saw this in something that's very close to us, which was Stakeshop, that you are able to do things by yourself. Like I remember that like flower sculpture that you did. And it's not just me, it's like me, Arif, Faris, Naufal, like whoever was like really part of Hoax then, we were all like raving about this like flower sculpture. And before I move on, I would like you guys to see this because it's impressive, and oh man, I can't find it.
Yeah, I mean that flower installation, I have to, like, all credits were given I'm going to give to Shaza, the Raksasa girls, which is Julian and Jane, who helped a lot, and then Ichi and Fia, also part of the Raksasa team back then. So they helped a lot back then.
They helped you build it?
Yes. So it was it's crazy. We still laugh. I think if I talk to them now, I think they'll still laugh at the idea. So it started off from them teaching their students about collaging, about paper mache, right? So then my brain started picking up all this, like when they were doing all these classes, I was thinking, okay. Then I asked the Ichi and Fia more about it. Okay. So then tends to me creating something which is a bit too crazy for me to do myself lah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't download Instagram pictures online, so I'm gonna just put the link for you guys to see because I really want you guys to see this. Um, Basically, the essence of DIY in Hoax was because we it's not that we weren't DIY. We were definitely DIY. We were doing it, but
Yes.
we didn't know it. You know, it's not like something we like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like a theory in our head that we're going to like keep doing it because of the sake of DIY. But
Mm.
here you can see in the picture, in the Instagram picture, is like a lotus flower sculpture made from paper mache coming out of a suitcase. And this was during when Stakesshop was renting out in Jalan Telawi, in Raksasa Prince studio basically, and yeah, so and it was there as a permanent, not I mean during the temporary time of Stakeshop, it was there as a permanent sculpture.
Yeah.
And like for me, like I can say that like it really inspired Hoax to become what we are right now, and what
Yeah.
we
Same here, man. I think looking at Hoax, looking at the energy you guys brought, meaning the courage to just ask us out of nowhere to do something with you guys, and then looking at how you guys made music back then at the same house that you are in now. I went there, and
yeah.
so it's like it sparked something in me. So back to the point where the people we meet throughout being creative through the years are going to affect you, and are going to affect your designs either way, whether
Yeah.
you notice it or not.
Yeah. Um, but I really want to get in. I want to delve into the DIY thing also because I think it's really important nowadays, especially, and you can see a lot of people like being more interested in, like thrift. Thank you. Thrift stores and later. Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
Thrift stores, and then like you see these I mean Instagram accounts, like personal people like making clothing brands out of scratch basically. And so
Mm.
the DIY attitude has like dispersed among people, um like thank you, like people like crazy right now. And do you think it was difficult starting off like that, and did you have some kind of like disdain towards selling out, you know, having like a sponsor or like anything that would direct your, or like selling, like literally selling your company?
um I mean, I think I come from a generation where it was uncool to sell out, right? For whatever reason it was passed down from like the generation X, right? So I'm after generation X, and I'm in between where things were before internet, and then suddenly things were all connected. So I'm in that generation of like a transitional generation, right? So the part where not selling out came from generation X, where you see those attitude by most streetwear brands of not wanting to sell out. I think Fucked has a lot of that attitude, FUCT. And then there's also brands like there's also bands like I know Nirvana semua tu who's talking about not selling out, but they're playing on MTV masa tu. So it
It's
was
the
kind of
same
like
thing.
so, but then maybe MTV back then was still fresh, so the idea of selling out to MTV wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
So right, and so everything was new and fresh.
So,
So yeah, but the disdain, I don't think I carried it on now. I mean, I don't think about whether or is this a sellout punya position or is this not a sellout position. No, I don't like that's not on my mind. My mind and my team's mind is just to create.
yeah.
That's our position.
Yeah. So
Like yeah, if there is an opportunity to sell a company, and if we feel like macam the people that's we're going to sell to are able to carry it, or we don't feel attached anymore to the brand, then why not? And
So
so
you would
it's
be
it
okay if like you had a sponsor, for example, and then which directed the brand a certain way.
uh it has to be a balance. Investors, I mean, I think we're talking about investors again.
Yeah.
So there has to be a balance where that investor is understands the brand, right? Of course, there's going to be differences in terms of what every person wants to do. Even if you don't have an investor, you have a team pun.
Mm.
I'm sure being Safehouse is a big team, and
Yeah.
there's different types of
Ideas.
directions that you guys want to go to, right? So that's why it's always important to have like a creative director that's just set. Okay, this guy is the direction guy. So whatever ideas you guys want to see, tell it to him, and then he decides whether
It
we're
goes
going
or
with
not.
that idea or not, right? If not, then I've heard, I've experienced so many stories where they don't have one guy who's in charge of that, and the company just breaks down really fast
Yeah.
because everyone thinks that they're responsible for the direction.
Yeah.
Tapi you're not giving a chance to the brand to grow its direction by
Yeah.
itself.
Um, yeah, I think I like for Hooks Vision, we definitely had problems with like facilities and access. And that's when we had like a big trouble sticking so much with the DIY attitude because, I mean, we would want to look for like the best way possible to grow as a brand, but like not having certain facilities or like we wanted to rent out EPW and then before like really became like the thing that it is now, and then we went there, we talked to them, we were like 19 or 18, me and Faris went there, and then the guy was like, oh, what do you want to do?
Mhm.
We want to do an event here, we can see how this works out, blah blah blah. And then they were like, okay, 12,000. So kita orang cakap kepala bana, kau apa benda? Do you see
Yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah.
19 and then you want to charge me 12,000, the same price you would charge Hotlink or something back then, like, and so that kind of like affected us, but it definitely made us resourceful and try and find other ways
Yes.
to be able to work a similar thing out. And after that we got
Yes.
like the opening of Arte Bar, like the upstairs Arte Bar, and the space
Mhm.
I think was definitely large enough for us to be able to like succeed in what we wanted to do, which was like that scale of an event.
Yeah.
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 So being DIY has its ups and downs, but I guess like it's just like the harder way to reach
Yeah.
the goal.
I mean, if we're talking about what we're talking about right now is back to the purity part lah.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, are you doing DIY for the sake of not selling out, or are you doing DIY because you don't have any other resources,
Yeah.
right? You're just using all whatever you have right now. So
Yeah.
there's two very different lines there, right?
Yeah.
And then what was I thinking? I was thinking about shit. I lost my train of thought. But yes, it's either it's okay. I just got it back. So when I was in Stakes, I was so adamant on doing film photography only. Okay, it's how I told you
Yeah.
I was crazy. People say I'm crazy now, but
Yeah.
back then I was more crazier
Yeah.
because I didn't know that that was pushing me back by setting this guideline that okay, no other photography, only film photography, because kononnya it was the best type of photography, and
Yeah.
whatever I was thinking lah masa
Yeah.
tu, because you were thinking of what's the best. Oh, but I mean, it all comes from a good
Place.
intention that you want the best for whatever you want to create. But then a friend of mine who redesigned the Stakes logo, called Naki, Ahmad Naki Udin.
Mhm.
So
I know him.
he taught me till today. I tell him that he taught me this lesson. So it was more of a question instead of a lesson back then. But now I because I'm older, I can see it as a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So he just said, "Why do you?" Because I was saying about this film photography thing, and then and how I want to stick only to that. Then he was saying, "Why would you wanna limit yourself to the?" He was more of asking a question of why do I want to limit myself to that particular guideline where if I don't follow that and just concentrate on how the end product would be, um, I could just use a lot of other methods to reach the closest point to the end product.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean, yeah. Instead of just limiting myself to just one method,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Just to take like a quick break. Speaking of speaking of DIY, and speaking of not getting sponsors because of identity and purity, um, here's a little word from my sponsor. Joking, we don't have a sponsor. Safehouse is doing really hard right now because of the MCO, and we are doing these live streams because we do like to do it, but we do depend on donations from all the like however many people that would like support us. So if any of you that's part of like this watching this right now want to support Safehouse KL and what we do, and you want to see more podcasts like this, please hit the subscribe button down below, like the video, also the donations links down below. So any financial support from you will definitely help us, because again, we don't depend on sponsors, and I don't know if for right now it's a identity thing necessarily, but it's definitely because we can't find any sponsors during this time, and we just started like 8 months ago or something. So back to, I guess, like the essence, or like what you want to be or what you believe in, such as film photography, and how these beliefs could potentially limit you from reaching like a bigger demographic that could potentially help, you reach a bigger business market, and
Mm.
at the end of the day, it has to play out with like priorities again. Like, do you want to do things you want to create because of only creation, or are you also dependent on the sustainability of your own brand, which depends directly on money and finances, right? Like, and limiting yourself to that might be damaging towards your brand and
Yeah,
business.
yeah. I mean, easiest way to think about it is if you don't sell, you don't have enough money to make new stuff. So that's just bottom line. You have to
Yeah.
understand that. But
Yeah.
unless you found a way to be able to fund your business without having to sell that much, I mean, there's some people who's able to do that. So
Yeah.
you just have to find a way.
Yeah, for sure. Like, if you have already the resources to treat it like more of a hobby than a business, then you
Mm.
could still be doing the same thing. It's just like, you have more freedom to it, to play around with it. Okay, so oh yeah, so I wanted to move on also. Like, I still have in the same line as attitude and DIY. I think there's a very important attitude, I guess, like pers- point of view, belief, principle, which is to have like a lot of collaborative nature, and I see that a lot with. I mean, I can't name out all your brands every single time I talk about you, so I'm just talking about you. I can see that a lot about you, where you are very keen on collaborating with like as many people as you can, and for some way or reason, like it doesn't necessarily have to like click so much with you yourself, but you can see the potential in them, and how you guys could collaborate. And I can't name, like there's so many people that like Transit Mart Sahaja has like
Yeah,
collaborated
yeah,
with,
yeah.
and do you think that this nature of collaboration is something that you have inside of you, or do you think like it's more of a business move, or what is it?
I don't think it's a business move. If it's a business move, I might be doing it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, the people we've collaborated with for the past years has always I mean, going back to you, Arif, Lerger, Ryder. Alicia, whoever that we've contacted or collaborated with, um, we've noticed this one thing throughout the years. Me and the team, Shaza and Haris, we've talked about this a lot. Where, oh, do you remember Fahan, or you remember the Hawks Boys, or you remember that girl, or remember this? We've noticed that the characteristics of people who gravitated towards either Stakes or Transit or Neo KL has this very particular characteristic.
Which is what?
So I'm um uh, it's I'm not sure how to even package it, right? So it the people we've known are very, very unique.
Mm.
Like, character wise, they're very them, right? So when we talk about Khadija, she's that girl is that girl. Like, you it's hard to explain in words, but that character, mostly, okay, if I really want to boil it down, it's like kind of very reserved, very creative. The people we've worked with, um, in their own lane, like they've kind of like masa tu there was no one doing folk like how that girl was doing, right? She did just one album and everyone was just like crazy
Amazing.
over, yeah, that album. And
Yeah.
still today, I think she's very, very talented.
Yeah.
And then the Hawks Boys, right? The brand of uh, music that you guys were pushing. I think you guys would laugh if I said hip hop, because you were not like hip
Identify.
hop man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, back to the inspirations you guys were going into, you talked a lot about Father dulu
Yeah.
from Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
And their brand of like music is very much different from masa to everyone else,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so very reserved, very creative, very in their own lane,
Yeah.
uh, and very unique. Like, not like pretentiously unique, but actually like pure unique. So we were very surprised lah, after a few years, that we realized how come all these, the ones that gravitated towards us had that characteristic. So I think it's just something that because we created something that has that similar vibe to that, it's just
Brings people
people.
together.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe if you guys weren't even in the same
Region.
circle bone, it's kind of like it's the kind of like the same circle.
The do you think that people gravitate, like people went to Stakesshop or and Transit Mart and Neo KL, or do you think that you were, I mean, actively looking for these
But
kinds
we
of
weren't. The thing is, we weren't. I
Mm.
mean, okay, a cool story about Ja, right? I mean, of course, when you see a cool person, um, the first thing I want to do is always to give stuff to them, because if because it's hard for me to find someone who's like who I feel like, okay, you wear, because if I think of commerce, I won't be giving it to uh, how old was she? Masa tu, maybe 17-year-old kid,
Fucking young.
yeah, who's like from Cyberjaya. That I'm not saying that she doesn't have um, the influence that can give us a bit more push in the commerce, but in actual fact, she does in a different way. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very stakes for me
Yeah.
to give it to her, to you guys, right? So
Yeah.
and I've always been, as I said, been inspired by the stories of community in streetwear, in subculture, in British subculture, like the skinheads, the post punk movement, whatever. It's all about, especially the post punk movement. Like, it's all about, because the youngsters masa tu didn't have jobs, didn't have anything to do. They were bored, so they started making bands, and they started performing for nothing,
Yeah.
right? So that kind of movement inspires me a lot. So I want that here. Easily, very easy uh, thing to say. I just want that here.
The
So
community, the
yeah, I just think it's cool. That's all.
yeah.
I just think it's cool
Yeah.
to have like I imagine it like our own documentary. Like we're watching documentaries of skinheads in Britain, and then
Yeah,
of
yeah.
post punks of
Yeah.
streetwear over there.
Okay, cool.
But then I'm imagining our own characters in this documentary,
Okay.
right?
Um I have a like an interest that I would like to delve into a bit more with this discussion. I mean that's a specific topic, but do you would you like to entertain that? I mean
Yeah.
this becomes more of like stuff like my opinion and stuff like that. Um I think that, I mean, do you think that we have that capability to become such a interesting enough I don't want to call it like subculture or counterculture, because in nowadays it's become so like sterile, and um, you can't really point out what subculture is anymore, but you can point out community. um, but do you think that we, as in like, I don't know, the people in the scene or the people that you've worked with, have that ability to create or like be have that characteristic that's strong enough to stand out as its own community?
Compared to
When you had everybody was bald and wearing leather like biker jackets and
okay,
big
yeah. For me, it's
dog
like
mugs and stuff.
for me, I think we have subcultures here in Malaysia. It's just that okay. The thing is,
No, I mean, I know, I understand that like we could
yeah,
have
yeah,
in Malaysia. I'm talking about us,
yeah,
like
yeah.
SS15. You know,
Uh,
like
uh,
the
uh,
people that you've worked with, or like, you know, I don't know what the exact demographic is, but yeah, I don't
I know.
I can't point out.
My thing is that maybe it's too small,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I think everyone who's involved with the scene would agree to this. It's such a small sample size compared to,
back then
I
in
always say Indonesia, let's
yeah,
say the closest, right? And then I always say this too, which is the sample size here compared to Singapore is also
yeah,
smaller there.
yeah,
So it's like, um, yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I don't have the ability to
yeah,
know whether we can make it or not,
yeah,
but for sure we can do something.
yeah,
I mean, we can create, but here's the thing for me. I've stopped trying to compare um, communities from outside to here to our neighboring countries, and
yeah,
because it's for me personally, for me it's counterproductive to me because um, you tend to dive into this rabbit hole of at the end of the tunnel you realize shit we can't do anything.
yeah,
Faham tak? Yeah,
yeah,
because it's very um, very possible to dig into that hole, right? So I don't think of comparing whether the communities are gonna are we gonna be as big as there or whatever lah. But I'm more concentrated on what, however small we are now. I'm more concentrated on okay, who's the next, not the next lah, who's going to be able to be another like girl, or who's gonna be like more involved in the
yeah,
creation instead of the forecasting whether we're gonna be big or not.
yeah,
Yeah, because either way, the work that we put in is going to lead us to somewhere. It's just that it's counterproductive to think of
yeah,
how fast we're gonna reach there,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's gonna pull you down.
For
Trust
sure.
me.
I mean,
For me, lah.
yeah, for sure. But I mean, I was just trying to figure out really what is the, I don't know, main instigator of things. Like you said, in Britain, like you mentioned, like quickly kan,
Mm.
like in Britain that they were bought, they made bands, and then these bands had all of similar kind of nature or characteristic, you know. And I do feel like to apply it now, it's like it's exactly that, like it's counterproductive because you can't just apply the circumstances of 1970s or
Yeah,
1980s
yeah, yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
2020 where everybody has Instagram and everyone is just
yeah,
looking at like this big catalog of how they want to be, you know. But like you said, there are certain characteristics that s- gravitate towards Stakesshop or your
Mm-mm.
brands, you know, which is like reserved but creative, and it's hard to
Ah,
pinpoint what it is exactly, but there is a community there because there are a lot of people that, for me personally, or through Hoax Vision or Safehouse also, we've encountered, you know. Except I guess
yeah,
like it's more hard for us to like pinpoint that there's a community because we don't all look alike,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
We don't have like, we don't like walk in
The
big groups.
uniform, right?
Yeah, we don't like walk in
Yeah,
big groups, or it's not the same
yeah,
kind of like situation as it was then. It was more like, it's
yeah,
more now online and how you like, who you follow or what you follow, who
yeah,
follows you.
yeah. I think the days of the uniform subculture days is pretty much over
Yeah,
because we're all melded into this one big internet culture, right? So everything is taken from here, from there. So that part of the subculture is not gonna come back. But what is still the movement of it, right? Like I was saying, I wasn't as interested in the clothing as much as the story of the subculture, the reason why they did it.
yeah,
And they had nothing else to compare to back then.
yeah,
Like no one else was doing post punk because they were just like feeling what they were creating. And
yeah.
so so I guess that's why it's kind of different from now because we have all these inspirations to take from, and then we're kind of lost in like our own creative identity.
Yeah, exactly. um I mean, I wanted to touch on the identity part, but before that, oh my god, I lost my train of thought. um I wanted to talk about how, what did I want to talk about? Okay, fine. Let's just move on to identity.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it, like I said, for me personally, I think that it is the Instagram or Tumblr or Pinterest or these like community building is definitely related one or the other towards like how the internet works. And it basically, like when you go on it, it's a catalog. There's one community here and another community here, one other community here, and you can just flip through the pages and pick out the things that you like and then claim yourself as that, you know. Oh yeah, I know. Okay, now I remember what I wanted to say. But at the essence of all of this identity, or I don't know what group these subcultures together, could
Mhm.
be boiled down to maybe like one thing, which is, for me personally, I think it's like passion. You know, these people are very much passionate into the things that they are doing, or like their beliefs or principles. And I think that nowadays in 2020, it's like in the internet world, because of the fact that you have this catalog and you can pick and choose, it's no longer about um, passion. You know, it's no longer about like deeply rooted in what you want and how you feel about the world and the things around you. It's more about what you want to be, and it's more like a perverted kind of sense where you like looking at it from the outside to its inside, you know, like kind of like sculpting who you are based on like what you feel you people might like, you know, other factors than just
Mm.
purely yourself and your passions. So I think like it's hard for me to say that we can find some sort of like common ground and community, not just because of the sample size is so small, but because, you know, it's hard to garner like passion in the kind of like environment that we are starting to grow up in. Like even younger people, they're starting to grow up in the internet right as they were born, you know. And it, so I think for me personally that's the case. So do you think that's something you see as well?
Mm, I guess. I mean, it's kind of like very like it's a topic that really has no end yet, because we're all still going through this identity crisis again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I think there's still probably okay. Honestly, I think to create like a truly unique community, uh, maybe there's no it's hard to find in clothing and music though,
Yeah.
right? So because that's I don't know. I still believe in its potential, but also there's a probability that it's fully tapped out, right?
It's saturated.
Yeah. So, but as what subcultures are, they're not specifically um, exclusive to just music and clothing,
Yeah.
right? So maybe the next subculture is more in the world of coding, or
Yeah. Yeah.
the that side of things,
Yeah.
right? But doesn't mean that there's not gonna be originality on the music, and
Yeah.
um, because kalau nak cakap, the most recent movement that I've been inspired with is the Sad Boys punya group lah,
Mm-hmm.
like Drain Gang, Echo,
Mm.
Young Lean. They were able to, and they were not from the time where
Yeah.
they were too old.
Yeah.
They were a time where internet was kind of saturated juga,
Yeah.
but they're not gangsters and whatever. But they took inspiration from whatever they were hearing,
Yeah.
and Lean just created this. I think yesterday, Echo Duque and what's the other guy's name
Blady.
in Drain
Blade.
Gang?
Blade.
Blade that. So yeah, they just did a NTS show. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
The direction that they have now with the whole Sad Boys movement, I think it's very unique to them,
Yeah.
right? So there is a potential of creating, but most probably the chances of creating that original of a movement is much more lower than
Yeah.
how it used to be
Yeah.
dulu,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I mean, you could also like point out these like I don't know what to call them lah, but these like spikes in popularity of a certain style or whatever. Like before that would be like Odd Future, when the whole
Yeah.
world was wearing like those donuts, you know. And then before that, I don't know, even before that time
Mm.
G Unit or whatever. Like, but these are like the more relevant internet
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
which is like Odd Future and these like Jane Gang. And then nowadays, like you can see a lot of popularity in the pop world, like the hyper pop world. Um, yeah, I guess it's correct that you say it's like the probabilities that these communities might spark up some purely original um, style is going to be much harder nowadays, because it's like so hard to like filter through all
Yeah.
the mass of
Yeah.
the content.
And that's why I think it's gonna make you crazy if you start thinking of, oh, I wanna create
this.
something like this,
Yeah,
because that at least for me, that's not how we've always operated. We've always operated on the sense that yes, I wanna witness the next group of Malaysian kids that's gonna create like a subculture here. I wanna help that through T-Mart and providing a space for them to start something. But it was never, oh, we must find them. Tak.
yeah. Okay. Jap, now move forward. Jap. So before we move forward, it's like already 11:30, which is 90 minutes, which is a great time that I had with Arma. I just want to say, like, ask if you're okay with moving on for a bit more, or
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So after this, I guess this time that we like have a little introduction to Transit Mart. After all this, we just started off with Stakesshop, and now we've arrived at Transit Mart. Basically, Transit Mart is a concept store and accessibility. Like I said, for those who don't know, I'm guessing like all of you who's in the chat do know that. do you want to tell us the story of how it came about? Like, it's not you only that's part of Transit Mart, right? Like, there are other partners involved.
Yeah, there's Shaq, there's Haris, there's Shaza.
Uh,
So and there's previously our before we closed down, there was our store manager Yase Yohe.
um,
Yeah.
how is that relationship like between like that partnership to create this Transit Mart? For me personally, whenever I think of Transit Mart, I only think of you lah, like you, the brainchild of you, you know, and that might only be because of how it looks like, or you know how the Instagram looks like. Do you want to talk a bit like how
Uh,
it came about and what?
but yeah. If you, I think it's common to say that because it was started off by me because I had this idea of a T-Mart thing, and then I created like a presentation slides for me to. That time Stakes was still around. I Long story short, I thought all the brands that I've known or friends that I've made who had brands, we needed a space that promotes this, right? That cares for the brand as much um, as as their own brand. So we wanted a left field sort of shop. So that's where Transit started for that pop up. So when I created those transit slides, I presented it to Shafiq Nafsu and Shaq, who was part of Third Culture and Masa Pantun Bins. And they were excited to see the slides, and then that's how it started. So technically, yes, the idea was from me since the start in terms of creative direction. Yeah, and how it grew up to be how it is now is because of the back and forth with the team that we had, like the discussions that we had. I still, as I said, it's important to have someone whose sole responsibility is to keep the direction intact, right? So instead of just leaving it to five individuals to handle it, have this one person uh, to be the creative director for the direction of the mart. That's what we wanted it for. We wanted to happen for T-Mart lah, because it was really important for us to have a direction instead of just being a place where people put their stuff and then we sell.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's just not us lah. So yeah, it was a very great time lah we had dekat SS15 tu. Yeah, we were able to do all these things that we were doing.
And your relationship with the partners themselves, like, like you said, you could. I mean, it's obvious now that you're the creative director, but what are the other responsibilities for the other partners?
Yeah, so Shaq is, I call him, I can equate him to the Swiss Army knife. Like whatever you want him to do, like Shaq, can we do this, do this, do this? Like I'm the Swiss Army knife for the creating part or the interior part or the design part. He's the part where whatever we need outside of that, he's like, okay, Shaq, can we find a venue, blah blah.
He'll
Can we
do it.
find a
Yeah.
can so that's Shaq. And then Harris is the PR guy. Like you talk to him, you can instantly jive with him.
Yeah.
It's like that's like a just a superpower that I don't have. It
Shout out
takes me a
Haris.
while. Yeah, it takes me a while to do that. Um, Shaza is she doesn't like to hear this, but she's more of like the I would say apa what's that called, the touching. Oh, so basically
The
she's
balance.
like a, yeah, the balance, right? So
Mm.
when an idea goes too crazy, it's like a project manager situation now,
Faham.
where she manages, yeah, she manages, she does, let's say when we went to a trip to Ipoh, she does all the housing, whatever, those kind of stuff, the tedious stuff, which is very hard. and then she's also the person who will say, I think we're doing too much, we need to slow it down, because the boys in the group are just like, oh yeah, it's gonna be cool though, blah, blah, blah. Even check watch out, yes.
Yeah.
But to then, yeah, she has to be the disciplinarian, say macam, okay, macam too much. But because that's her job too, like
Yeah.
on her apa ni, full-time job.
Like from, I mean, I do know these people not only from Transima but also from, I mean, before Stakesshop and Shaq from his other endeavors, but I also found out a lot about a lot of other people through Transima, and like F Rider, Dylan,
Yes.
Jonah Lim, you know, like these people who I mean, this collaborative nature that you have within your, I mean, yourself and your store as well, is very much like bringing people that also I find interesting, and then end up being friends also.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
So,
thing, right? It's more about their connection to the spirit that
betul.
the mart has.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, you can see through these three people you just mentioned, right? Jonah, Dylan, and Carl. They have totally different styles. They do totally different things,
Yeah.
but the spirit that connects them is the spirit of creation, and yeah, basically the T-Mart spirit. So that's where
Also,
it is.
Max Jala, I saw I found from Transit
Yeah,
also.
yeah, another reserve guy,
Yeah,
right?
that we just had for our live session a couple days ago.
Crazy talented.
Um,
He also, like Carl, like Dylan, like okay, Max, Dylan, Carl is the newest people we've known recently, at least for a few years. Kan, the way they came through is the same as you and Arif. He DM'd and say, "Hey, can I come through? Can I be blah 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 blah?"
yeah.
So they just came over, we talked, and then I usually have a hunch on this sort of people once I have conversations with them. So I guess I just built it up through the years.
Uh,
So
but they came to Transit like differently. Like Carl was
yes,
your intern. Max
yeah, the first
had
ever intern.
installation. Dylan
Yeah,
was DJ.
yes. So Dylan, he came through when we first opened up the mart, and then we had the event, and then I saw this one lonely Chinese boy
Hmm.
like waiting there. So I was like,
Sama doh. Dia dekat Safehouse macam tu juga doh.
dia macam, and kita tak, we didn't know him at all. So macam I approached him, macam in my mind macam you lost or something, you know. Tapi when I talked to him, he knew from
Instagram.
our Instagram, whatever. He just came by to watch, and then he just became near. I just welcomed him, and we all welcomed him, and then asked if you want to jam. We want to jam. It took us 3 times or 4 times. Then only he started bringing his equipments around,
Hmm.
because he wasn't sure whether we were just being nice or
Serious.
Nila. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
yeah. Like, I mean, and like you bring them together. It's and then I mean, how to say, they don't come in like an experience whatever they do, you know, like I said, like Carl started off as your intern, but then after a while I also saw RPG perform at T-Mart,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
now they've kind of like developed and grown into, like, I don't know, do you think that T-Mart also serves as that kind of like venue for people to be able to express themselves creatively, and then also realize their potential to develop
Yeah.
their art one way or another?
Sorry. Yeah, I mean that was brought from Lotus Club,
Mm.
right? We had Lotus Club before that,
Yeah.
but Lotus Club was a bit more exclusively for Hawks.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to like bring T-Mart in and then
Yeah.
create Lotus Club there,
Yeah.
right? So being respectful of that partnership between Hawks, I just, okay, let's put Lotus Club here. It ended with Sticks. Now bringing it forward, I shouldn't call it Lotus Club. should call it something else. And then I know from the experience that I had with you guys, which shout out to Faris, who really helped a lot during the Lotus Club days, bringing the speakers up, whatever. I don't think I had enough time to thank him masa tu because he was
No
like constantly
crack.
there.
No, dulu.
Yeah,
We would bring like
the
not even proper speakers out. They're like monitors. They're supposed to be at home
yeah,
or like a studio or something. And then we used it for an event every single time we had Lotus Club.
yeah. So yeah, thanks Faris. Thank you very much. So then moving up to doing it for T-Mart, I mean I've always believed in music and clothes have to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So that's why we were open to okay, let's but the idea of T-Mart punya sort of space it was more for a starting point for kids who didn't have the ability to start terus dekat somewhere that's a bit more established, right? So macam kata rapper tapi dia tak ada experience apa, dia tak boleh pergi I don't know, rapper selalu pergi mana,
Tak tahu dah.
clubs ke whatever,
Oh,
right?
sekarang anyway atas Maulana.
I mean before that mana ada atas Malona kan,
Oh,
kan?
betul.
So yeah, but you kind of have to have a certain track record before you can even play those the like Zouk, tempat-tempat kat Zouk tu whatever bar there's
Yeah.
that kan. So we just wanted to okay, here's a place with no pressure at all. You want to do what you want to do. It's kind of like a practice place, but not really practice.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not. I don't know. Like, the first time I saw RPG, I was like instantly impressed by like his performance skills. You know, like he's such a show person. They both are like very show like good performers, and I was surprised that like they came out of nowhere, and then at this clothing store out of all places, they're
Yeah,
performing
I
like at
remember.
some big
Yeah,
concert.
I was quite happy that you and Alicia came because I really wanted to show this boys to you guys.
Yeah.
But then korang datang dan cakap yes. So then I cakap you should look at them
Yeah.
Very promising the two.
Yeah, they were, and like see where they are. I mean, see where they are now are very
Yeah.
established musicians themselves.
Boleh lah.
Okay, so moving forward. Aduh, we covered a lot of these things. Oh, okay, so one thing that I think for me, and I think a lot of people agree that about you personally is like definitely something to do with work ethic, and sometimes I don't know what time you sleep at. Sometimes I think you're an old person and you sleep early, but for some other reason I think that you never sleep because you're like always working, and to see that
Naturally I sleep early. Without work, yeah, I sleep quite early.
naturally, but like you most of the time, mostly.
Depends. Like I prefer sleeping early and starting work early
Yeah.
in the next day.
So it's crazy to see like how devoted you are into like your work and how I don't know like how strong of a I mean this work ethic, you know, just being able to like push yourself to the limit to produce like the utmost quality that because you believe in it, and juggling 4 different things at one time could be like like draining physically but also like mentally. Do you see that this is like something that you want to do, or is it something that you have to do, or do you think that this work ethic is something, I don't know, admirable?
The real answer is from the Ruby Uzi there. Dia cakap Arma is always working.
Yeah.
So that's the real answer.
Yeah.
But I go back. Okay, you're saying 4 works tu kan?
Yeah.
It's all necessity for me. I don't know whether people are gonna believe this or not. Yes, it's all necessity. The reason why I work for showroom is because, as you know, the creative industry here is kind of hard to make money from.
Yeah.
So, and I come from a middle income family,
Yeah.
and my dad's not working now. My mom's not working, housewife. So like I'm the oldest. I have to start supporting somewhere, right? So that's the reason why I stopped Stakes.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not apa ni? I'm all about not being this sparkly designer punya person, right? You know me. I'm like quite a realist. So and because that's the thing I think a lot of designers need to know. There's a lot of grind to this.
Yeah.
Instead of the superstar that you always see on Instagram, ke apa, you feel like, oh shit, I wanna be like them, wanna create me, wanna do.
Yeah.
It's like flashy lifestyle, but like it's not here basically. So that's the reason why I stop Stakes to concentrate on putting food on the table.
Yeah.
So then I thought of stopping the roast and just working because I was kind of heartbroken from stopping Sticks because I thought it would be forever,
Yeah.
and then it was a rough time. So working for showroom, I think about 5 months. Then I've already started like new ideas in my head.
Yeah.
So then that's the epiphany of me. Okay, shit, maybe I cannot stop creating. So I have to either like push this deep down
Yeah.
and start working only, or I have to embrace this part of myself who always wants to create and just create lah, but maybe scale it down, maybe not do it full time again.
Yeah.
So that's where New Gale came about, right? It's more of a extension. It just a little nugget too. If you look into Sticks punya last collection that we dropped was called Bring Forth New KL. That was even
Yeah.
before.
No, dude. I know the origins. Let's
Yeah,
say
yeah.
of the.
That was even before thinking of creating New KL as a
Yeah.
standalone thing, right?
It
And
was more
then
of an idea.
yes, and then the final post, I think it was like a grave thing, and then there's an end logo there, right?
Mm.
So that's the this
Continuation.
yeah, because I didn't wanna, because we had a lot of at least for me, we had a lot of people following Sticks masa tu
Yeah.
that came to our events and stuff. I felt it was kind of like unfair to just like end it there and there's no continuation. So bringing them into another world where it was a bit more grown up. So it was just a small nugget for them.
So that's what you would call Neo Kale, like the grown-up version of Stakes.
Definitely, it's probably not the same um,
Aesthetic.
aesthetics, but if you look into, I think Alicia just mentioned just now about the movie that we did for bootleg series from Stakeshop. She said, "Where's the video?" It's still there. It's actually on Stakes TV on Vimeo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that particular video really is the genesis of the new KL thought process, which is the more grown up version of yeah, and more introspective version of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then okay, we're talking about the four workload that was a necessity, right? So then transit was still around, but then it was more about me, about Shaq coming to me, hey, let's do this, and then I couldn't say no. because because I've already started it with Shaq kan. So I have to give him, like, I cannot just like quit. So I have to respect his decision too. So Shaq kind of like pushed me, okay, fine, let's just do one last one, which is the Transit cafe on top of the yeah of masa tu fix. So Transit cafe was out of, again, necessity for me. It's more, it's all natural. There was no deliberate thing except for Neo. But Neo also came out from the need to create. So it's all like necessity, basically. Yeah. And against, I've been working with Sean since the first collab that you modeled in.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was a
Yeah.
really long time ago.
X-ray. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first thing I ever worked on with Sean. And then um, later on, I mean, truthfully, I just needed a bit more cash because it's not enough nowadays to just have one job.
And
You kind of have to.
you and Sean. I mean, for me personally lah, the most like respected, the respect that I have for and the closing scene, and I do look up to. I don't know if he's still here, but I do look up to Sean like immensely because it's similar with you because you have this like
Okay.
work ethic, and he has that as well. But like for me, when the first time I heard how old he was, aku cak, oi, okay,
Yeah.
he's like 1 year younger than me. So he's like 23 now, and he started against like when he was what 19, 20 or something like that. And I was
Yes. Yeah.
just like, wow, like the I don't know. It's just like he's not messing around as like at the age that he is. He's very
Mm-hmm.
serious and like into it. Um, so yeah, like I love to see that you and Sean had collaborated, and you've also like worked with him um, for a bunch of different things, and now you've become like the lead designer at Against level. So um, do you want to talk a bit about that, like how that is, or
Um, I mean, yeah, it's a lot, a shit ton of work.
yeah,
Very honestly, because like having a collection for against, I have to be more because I can't just play around like I do in Neo.
yeah,
Neo is a bit more chill because it's still from my head.
yeah,
Against, I have to design. I'm not designing for me.
yeah,
I'm designing for against.
yeah,
So I have to put myself in a different mindset. So it's a different hit. So that's why it's a bit more tedious designing against, because the ideas are not naturally coming from my head. It's it's me having to to read the brief, research the brief, and then the brief meaning whatever Sean wants it to be, and then expand the brief
yeah.
because he may have like a skeleton of an idea. I have to expand it more.
And
So
execution is also you, like,
execution
the
meaning.
designs, like actually producing the
Yeah,
designs.
yeah. Designs are basically okay. So it's start okay. The creative process of the games is basically Sean having a main concept, a story that he wants to tell. He'll email me, so then I'll have to come up with 3 phases.
Yeah,
So the first phase is the research phase. The second phase is the um, uh, research/design, figuring out the silhouette of the collection, figuring out the color,
mm,
figuring out the story, how the story coincides with the silhouette and the color. Even though we're just creating streetwear, I guess a lot of the bulk of the reason why against is because of the research behind the just designing a t-shirt. Even as simple as a t-shirt, there has to be a story. So Sean doesn't want it to just be let's just drop. Sean wants a story behind every
the
collection. So
research,
that's
yeah,
why, yeah, I guess that's why he entrusts this in me because I've always designed things that way since Stakes. So
yeah,
it was very story based too. So okay, from that it then comes to the technical part of things, the last phase, which is the actual design phase. So there's 3 phases. So uh, as of late, I've started working full time for Against, and then I'm no longer with showroom. So by doing Against full time, it takes it's more technical and more tedious.
mm,
So just to give you an imagination, one spring summer collection or fall winter. I've worked with two recently. So spring summer and fall winter just ended it this morning, I think. So each of them 100 slides each. So it's like within that 100 slides uh, is the whole research, the whole design process, silhouette, blah blah blah, and the whole finalized design before we go into amendments.
Um, see, Alicia has a question here, and she says, "How do you work segregate work in against with having multiple creatives in your team?"
Okay, so it's easy. So I'm more of the like the workhorse, meaning not Chern is a designer, yes, but Chern is also a partner. So he right now his position is more of he can create whatever he figures out lah. Mostly, he's creating like very clockwork centric
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Sometimes if he has like one or two designs that he feels like he wants to put in a spring summer or for winter, he'll just Sean will just pass it to me. Yeah, I'll just put it in. So majority of the work in terms of uh, uh, the 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 whole collection I'm handling. So there's not too much crisscrossing of Nila. It's just me and Sean.
yeah.
So, but there's no crisscrossing there. It's strictly
Straightforward.
Sean gives me the orders. I take in the orders, decipher what he wants, expand on what he wants, and then after expanding on the story, I have to tie it back into a proper package.
To move forward into like a more, I guess, like bleaker note. Um, I mean, we've covered the things that you are part of. Steak Shop, again, Steak Shop, Neo KL, Transit Mart, as well as designing for Against Lab. But the true brainchilds are the first three of yours. But as we talked about, and what we notice now is that Steak Shop has ended, and then recently also like in March, right? You closed down um, Transit Mart, and the big question I have for you is more like, when or at what point does that realization come when something you're so passionate about that is directly yours, um, do you realize that you need to end these things, and why?
Okay, so just to clear up, because yes, T-Mart closed its physical store, but we're still I don't want to promise anything, but we're still in a hiatus where we're figuring out, okay, should we continue or should we not? And if not, if yes, then how do we adapt, right? So it's either adapt or you die. So
Yeah.
you have to figure out a way to adapt especially now, right? So okay, but then going back to your question with how do I know when to stop? Um, that was the first lesson from Sticks. I've always explained this even during the against talk with you and Zul, right? So my thing was I started Sticks too late. Sorry, I stopped Sticks too late. Meaning I could have stopped it earlier, but it's natural to s- to stop it late because that was my first ever project, and then you're kind of like too how do I say too in love with that project lah, basically, and it stops you from realizing, okay, you're not making enough money to make new stuff, or you're being too experimental, uh, which then affects your product sales, which then affects you to make new products slower, right? So I guess that was just a lesson for me to learn, right? So, but uh, real world real world effect was my mom telling me, "Hey, you need to put food on the table because we're running out of money." So this is just a very harsh reality.
Yeah.
So I'm quite thankful that that was my kick in the butt, right? Instead of me having to realize it too late lagi. So
And
me
was
realizing that part, sorry,
sorry, keep on.
yeah. So me realizing that part, so made me grow up. So, okay, this is childish for me to maintain this full time. I'm not even getting enough. Whatever, it's a good experimental run, but I've got to move forward. So whatever idea afterwards, I had more commerce in mind, in a sense that it's a more uh, mature way of looking at design, which is design always involves commerce.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, but we always have to have like a like an inspiration of that, right?
of course.
So I was looking into uh, Dover Street and how again the story of what's the owner?
Huh?
The lady, I forgot. Shit. So um, so the lady who started CDG and Dover Street is a
Ray.
very big inspiration to Sticks. Is to T-Mart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I mean, I just kind of wanted to like dig out the actual cause of the things, and would I mean, I guess I am getting it out of you already right now. It's more of like economic concerns, um, that Stakes wasn't fulfilling enough economically, and also turns out that T-Mart wasn't. With your message that you sent out on Instagram on Transit's Instagram, it was basically like, I mean, it's not just because of it, but definitely something to do with like COVID being around, and then it affected your sales tremendously. But you also had another kind of like intuition that you wanted to bring up was, that people are not buying clothes anymore, you know, and people are like trying buying new clothes. Um, people are there's this whole like thrift culture that's coming around of like sustainability, um, and do you have any thoughts of that? I think, I mean, this might be interesting for those who might be watching who are also part of like the clothing community. Do you have any thoughts on this like production, of new clothes and the market that it is now? Do people still buy? I have like a quick little note to say with like I saw some partners of Safehouse. They were saying they were watching Joe from Project Jad, and this is happening a lot lately. They were doing like Instagram lives and they were doing live selling, and um, yeah, one of my partners said that he was making like a shit ton of money from like selling, you know, these old clothes basically. Um, so do you think that that's the direction of the market now for clothes, or do you think that
Mm,
there's a future for Neo KL to be producing more of its own?
Neo KL is not necessarily concentrating on clothes. Yes, yeah, mainly the idea comes from clothes, but I've never really decided to just keep it at clothes. So it could be anything. Basically, uh, I didn't wanna uh, stop it at just clothes. So, but in terms of future of the market, it's more of course, this is just my opinion now, but it's more of, I guess, because I've been creating for like how many years, like been creating and creating things, right? So, I guess it just caught up with me. The act of creating also creates waste. So I've been a bit more. I mean, I don't preach the idea of people have to make secondhand clothing or create from secondhand clothing, but I'm more aware of the idea that we're creating a lot of waste,
Yeah.
and and this waste that we're creating, um, for me, it's irresponsible a bit lah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So also, but I don't want it to go into a bleak discussion, because I still respect those brands who still create from new raw materials. The act of creation doesn't just I don't discriminate lah, basically, between like me. Uh, but shit, I lost my train of thought. Okay, but going into the market, right? Yes, I think it's safe to say we, at least T-Mart, noticed that, okay, the market started going into the the second hand area of things, right? Things are cheaper, things are more unique, things are has more character. So, but most importantly, things are probably more cheaper,
Yeah.
right? If we discount the stores that are a bit
Yep.
more curated, um, bundles are just RM5, and you can, and then it's an experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we acknowledge the fact that in our right in our small goodbye write up, right, that we see this trend taking over. But I also think that maybe the trend is taking over has a bit more bleak.
Connotation.
Yes, maybe the young are just not able to afford the new stuff,
If you
right?
want to
Which is,
know my point of view, that's it.
yeah,
I can't afford your clothes.
yeah. Which is sort of bleak, because that kind of paints the
Yeah, yeah.
it's broad,
No.
but it kind of paints the broad economic status of
Yeah.
the youngsters that are going what they're going through now, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
sorry.
yeah,
I mean that's the assumption that Safehouse um, operates by. We do our shows at like 10 ringgit, 20 ringgit, like incredibly cheap, because we have this sort of like realization, understanding that okay, there might be like outliers, like people who spend 450 ringgit, 500 ringgit for good vibe tickets, but that's not something that they see as like a concert. That's, let's say, as like a vacation, for example.
yeah.
What they want to do on the weekends, that's something that they can't afford, and that's just portrays like the sad reality of the Malaysian economy, and how kids nowadays are able to afford luxury. I mean, so to say, like clothes and music, like leisure, spend on leisure is just not there anymore.
Mm,
So like to keep up with it and still run your business is just
yeah. And then again, like, say safe house, you're charging about what, 10 ringgit, 20 ringgit for a show, right?
yeah.
I'm sure it's at some point you guys are thinking, okay, for how long is this going to be able to sustain, right? That's why the necessity of creating another other events, or creating a pop-up, or creating new tenants every month. It's not, yes, it's a creative outlet, but it comes from necessity,
Yeah.
which is, at the same time, if you really look into it, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the real part of the conversation,
Yeah.
right? Whether um, the sustainability of creative businesses here. If you're in food, chances are there's high potential that you're gonna
Because
go
it's
for
not
it. Yeah,
a leisure, it's not a luxury thing.
yeah. And
People
at the
need to eat.
same time, it's like food is mass. You can almost everyone can understand food,
Yeah.
right?
And
But when it comes to clothing and music, it's very subjective.
yeah. And to those that want to know how Safehouse makes its money, it's simple. We do Atas Maulana, which is strictly for the mass, and we have 350 people pack that 200 packs place, and at 20 ringgit per person, that makes us enough money to run. However, our other events that don't reach that quantity doesn't, and I think that you might reach the same kind of conclusion, that you have to like provide as much as possible
Yeah,
in order to
that's why there's
sustain.
two prongs to T-Mart,
Yeah.
like the music part, and then we hope that people who come to listen to the music um, supports us by buying the clothes, right? So
Yeah.
there's a okay. Honestly, we I think we could have pulled through,
Yeah.
to be honest, because um, if we had the um, what do you call that, ability to sustain, or what do you call that, when someone runs, what do they have? But
Some adrenaline,
no.
momentum.
Uh, shit. Okay.
Sweat.
Anyways, if we're able to sustain the marathon, basically
Yeah.
with enough funding on our hands, we could have wrote the rough parts out.
Mm-hmm.
Cuma whether it's going to be, yeah, businesses like T-Mart, it's like it's kind of very the money just rolls, right? There's no really ability to save that much
Yeah.
in terms of like profits, because it's such a, okay, this month's money, move forward, right? And we didn't even look into, honestly, if we looked into like proper business funding, we might have been able to expand or even stay there longer. But we didn't look into SME funding or whatever.
Um, quick break. For those that don't know, Safehouse is running. However, we have to pay rent and our doors are closed. So, for those who are still watching, we would appreciate if you could subscribe to our channel below, because we need to reach 1,000 subscribers to monetize from YouTube, and as well donate with the donation link down below, because we could really use some financial support to pay our bills, because our landlord is evil. um, Moving on, I guess we are going pretty much oh, okay, before this, are you comfortable with disclosing the rent prices of SS15 when you started Transit Mart? Because I'd assume like at that point, like SS15 was already like a popular enough place, and I guess like opening a store there, I mean, it's not as, I mean, it's definitely died down for the past year or so, but when you guys started, it was still like the spot. um yeah, was it like a economically viable thing to do, or was it something to do with like the size of
Oh
Transit
no, I
itself?
mean, yes, we like the size. We didn't want too much of a hassle of maintaining the store. Plus, having a too big of a space also has a lot of running costs, right? So it was just a nice size, really close to the LRT.
Yeah.
I think we almost had, during really good times, we almost had walk-ins every day,
Mm.
1 or 2 points. Still, as a small store, we considered that really good, right? So that's the perks of having a ground floor store at SS15, and especially that lane, we loved it because no one really messed with us,
Yeah.
right? So we could have
True.
like
True.
done whatever the fuck we wanted, and like tak ada complaints, tak ada apa.
Yeah.
I mean, I think rare that we hear a shop that does all the music that we did,
Yeah.
and we didn't get complaints yang forced us to close down or anything like that, right? So everything was cool, but in terms of rent, it was way much higher,
Yeah.
right? Like, macam comparing to other spots, right? If you The rent is much higher, but
Yeah.
I think it's justifiable.
For the
Our sales were we were able to cover rent and a bit more earlier on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
SS15
yeah.
is like the cool spot. I mean, for the kids. I mean, basically a demographic lah. And those were the demographic of the walk-ins also. Um, yeah, I mean, we're close to like ending it here now, but I think that there was one important note that I wanted to talk about before. I mean, I should have brought it up earlier, but um, utilizing social media, but like you, the way that I see you, it's only now that you have like a personal Instagram account, and before
Hmm.
this, you've never really had like your own. And I wanted to know your opinion on like basically why you do this and getting rid and
Why?
the self identity or like the self promotion, I guess, in and rather promoting yourself as a brand. Like if I wanted to DM you, I would DM Stakeshop or Transitmart instead. And
Hmm.
what is the reason for that? Because the motivation that I have for that question is because I feel like it's very rare that you see that nowadays. People are more trying to promote themselves, because that's the product most of the time on Instagram, and the brand is something like the ownership of the actual person, you know. And but
Yeah.
for you it's a bit different. It's the other way around.
Yeah. I've always gravitated to, as I said, stories of the brand. And most of the brands I like, and the owners that I like were out of the public eye.
Yeah.
So like James Jabaya, maybe a bit of Sean Stussy, but Sean Stussy wasn't necessarily super into the limelight.
Mm.
He was still a bit of a uh, uh, not that ni.
Recluse.
Yeah, kind of a recluse. Yeah, maybe right. Reserved a bit. Jun Takashi. I think that, and there's always the Steve Jobs effect, right? Like pushing forward a personality, but then when the personality is not there, it's tough for the brand to.
Sustain.
Yeah. It took a while for Tim Cook to be
Yeah.
in the limelight, and it's not the naturally Tim Cook's place to be in the limelight right now. I think Apple has stabilized that, and Tim Cook is still in the back end of things. Um, but he's still there, kan, Tim Cook.
Yeah, he saw that.
Yeah, yeah. So there's pros and cons to ni. If you have a strong personality, you can drive the brand further juga. So it's all about matter of choice. But personally, the reason why I've not had a personal Instagram account is because um, one, there was too much of too many accounts for me to handle. Right, there was
Betul tu.
uh yeah. So then it just burns me out.
Yeah.
Secondly, a more personal note is um, I have a big ego.
Yeah.
So like when I include myself in things, that's when I notice it's just an emergency measure for me to bring my ego out of things. So it's more about me, the creation, instead of people knowing me. But being where I am now, I think I'm a bit more uh, stable and a bit more matured to handle the sort of ego part of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's not a critique or judgment or like
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
such
understand.
a interesting characteristic, but like it's more about like, you know, maybe there's like a uh, motivation towards losing that self identity or ego, like fully
Mm-hmm.
committing towards the brand, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I guess like it's undeniable that Stakes or T-Mart or Neo KL is yours, you know, regardless of whether the Instagram account
Yeah,
you, is whatever, right, is not. Um, yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, looking back at it, maybe it's more comfortable for me to come out with a personal Instagram account now because I have the track record and the history,
yeah,
right? I
Yeah.
wasn't really comfortable coming out then because
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else to show for, right? Yeah. So again, it comes back to Nia. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, I mean, I guess like we've covered basically the whole thing in like a 2 hour and 20 minute podcast, and it's definitely been the longest podcast that we've had so far. Before we ended, I just want to ask like a really quick question, considering the fact that you have so many things, you've done these like so many things. Basically, your whole mantra is create, create, create. Even Shaza said that
Hmm.
you only work, you don't stop. I just want to ask you if you are like, are you creatively fulfilled?
Yeah, that's a weird question because I've never thought of that.
I mean,
As I said,
yeah,
I'm just like creating, but I've
yeah,
never. There comes time when you you become a bit apa ni? It's tiring. It's like you've come to like there is a battery or some sort when it comes to creating, and
mm,
then you realize you're drained. That's why resting is really important because it's easy for you to get out of hand. It's really easy for things to get out of hand when you're creating because you feel that okay, firstly it was just the need to create, so you create, and then it comes to your ego start saying maybe this is not enough, so you create because it's not enough, right?
yeah,
So now you're creating things because you feel that it's not enough,
yeah,
and then sooner or later you realize your battery is empty and you, it's all downhill from there
yeah,
basically. But that's why it's really important when you start thinking, oh, is this enough? You got to like take a rest or at least do something else,
yeah.
right? So yeah.
All right. I mean, no, I don't think, for me personally, looking at you, I don't think you're like nearly done with your little creative battery. I think you've got a lot of things in your head that you still would like to do, given like certain
Yeah.
resources and facilities, and having all these things now doesn't really limit you from that. So I mean, it could be like a philosophical question: can anyone be creatively fulfilled? But I
Mm.
just wanted to see your view on it.
But I mean, if you're talking about philosophically, I think you can. I think you come to a point where you're no longer subconscious or too conscious of your creations, right? You look like someone like Yuji Yamamoto,
Yeah,
where and you see his interviews, he talks really slow and he's really comfortable with his skin, right?
yeah,
And he's one of the best interviews for me to watch is him because he's straightforward. He talks about things being bleak and it's very poetic
mm,
in some sort of way.
mm,
So but he's like, I'm done. Like a lot of his interviews you realize he's like, I'm done with this shit, I'm just here to just
yeah,
continue.
yeah,
But I you can tell the vibe that he's like, I don't really care.
yeah.
I'd like to reach there.
Like you don't really care.
Yeah, I'd like to reach that point of
Yeah,
you guys do what you guys wanna do. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. But whatever people think, I don't really care.
yeah,
Yeah, that old man mindset.
yeah. Maybe you'll reach the given age. You're not that far off.
Yeah.
I guess that for me is like the end of the podcast.
Have fun, man.
Yeah, I think it was a really great opportunity. I was fucking excited, like really, because I look up to you a lot, and I haven't really had the chance to like had a, especially recently or since the 4 years I was in Berlin. But now that I've gotten like a good 2 hours and a half talk with you, and I'm very much glad. Thank you very much for joining Safehouse to you, podcast
Yeah,
number
man.
three.
And I'd like to say what you guys are doing. It's really inspiring me too.
Mm-hmm.
Like seeing you, Alicia, Philip, whoever is at the back end of Safehouse doing what you guys are
Punk.
doing now.
No, punk's
That
not part of it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know exactly who's in what,
Yeah.
right? But let's say as a whole, looking
Yeah.
at you guys all creatively doing what you guys do,
Yeah.
yeah, it's. I'm glad that there's still Safehouse even after T-Mart closes.
Well, with that, that's a good little segue. Um, T-Mart does still have an opening. I don't know if Shaq is here. Opening for a new tenant. If ever T-Mart feels like continuing, we do have an open slot. Please let us know. Um,
Let's see.
yeah. With that, thank you everyone for sticking around for the
Thank you
podcast.
guys.
Yeah, this was
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Rider
Arma
Rider.
from Transit Mart, from Neo KL, from former Stakesshop,
Thank you, Tobu.
and lead designer from Against Lab. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.